I never set out to run a sanctuary. I set out to keep my ship's air scrubbers clean, and my manifest short. And somewhere in the last 4 years, that turned into 3 strays curled in my cargo hold, and a 4th one who hated me for it. The Petrel's Rest is a light freighter, old enough that half her plating still bears her original registry, under 3 coats of patchweld. I dock her at Anchor Point whenever the run allows, because Anchor Point sits beside the old ring, a derelict habitat, gutted in some war before mine, full of collapsed decks and drifting cargo pods that draw scavengers, the way a carcass draws gulls. Most of what drifts out of the ring is scrap. Sometimes it's not. Ash came out of a maintenance shaft, half-starved, snapping at anything that moved, until I sat down on the deck plating and didn't move either. Cinder came out of a cracked stasis pod, small enough to fit in one hand, scales the color of a dying ember. Moth I found curled around a corpse that wasn't hers, guarding it out of some instinct nobody had taught her, and she came home with me, because I didn't try to pull her away from it. I just waited until she was ready to walk. Ilex was different. I found her pod 6 weeks back, tumbling loose off a Kirin Hive transport that never answered our hails again. She came out of it fully aware, amber chitined, wing cases folded tight against her back, and she looked at my hold, at Ash's nest of blankets, at Cinder sunning under the heat lamp, at Moth's lazy sprawl across the crates, the way a woman looks at a house she's been mistakenly delivered to. The Kirin are caste-born. Every hive child knows its rank before it knows its name. Ilix's rank, whatever it had been, was high enough that she did not eat where the others ate, did not sleep where the others slept, and made it clear through 8 days of silence that she considered herself boarded with vermin, not kin. I didn't push her. Pushing never worked on any of them. You learn that fast, running a hold full of things the galaxy already tried to break. Ash had come to me only after 2 weeks of thrown food and bared teeth, and it was the not flinching that did it, not any word I said. Cinder took longer, curled so tight in her cracked pod that I thought at first she was already dead, and I'd sat by that pod every night for 9 days, running diagnostics I didn't need to run, just to be a warm shape nearby. Moth had walked to me on her own terms entirely, in her own time, and I'd learned by then to let every one of them arrive exactly the way they needed to. So I fed Ilix separately. I let her watch. What she was watching, I think now, was me. The way I'd sit with Ash while I stitched a torn ear. The way I let Cinder ride my shoulder while I ran diagnostics. The way Moth would flop across my boots at shift's end, and I'd just keep working around her, one hand always resting somewhere on her fur. Ilix watched all of it with her antennae flat and her jaw plates locked, and I understood, too late, that what looked like scorn was something closer to hunger. The Wayfinder was mine, hand-built, a signal crystal I'd carried on every salvage walk into the ring for 6 years, because that wreck eats radio the way rot eats wood, and a man can wander those dead corridors for a long time before he understands he's lost. I kept it clipped inside my suit collar. It was the only thing aboard that was purely mine, and I think that's exactly why Ilix broke it. I found the crystal in 3 pieces on the deck the morning Magistrate Corson's shuttle burned into dock. Reeve Corson ran reclamation for the station authority, and he'd been circling the Petrel's Rest for a month, ever since a dockhand reported unregistered alien fauna living in my hold. He came aboard with a data slate and a smile built for cameras. 4 unlicensed specimens, Mr. Hale. One of them hive-cast. You understand I can't let that stand. He said specimens the way other men said vermin. The ring's condemned. My crews start demolition on the east wing today. I'd advise you not to have anything of value still inside it, registered or otherwise. I told him the litter didn't go in the ring. That was mostly true. What I didn't know yet was that Ash and Moth had slipped out through the cargo airlock an hour before dawn, chasing some scent trail of ashes toward the old habitat ring, the way pups do when nobody's watching close enough. I didn't find that out until the ring's east wing came apart 40 minutes into demolition, 3 decks early, and my suit comm lit up with Ash's frightened howling, buried somewhere under 100 tons of shifted hull. I went for my collar out of pure habit. The Wayfinder wasn't there. 3 cracked pieces of crystal sat useless in a dish by my bunk, and the ring's corridors, even whole, had a way of turning a confident man around inside 20 minutes. The ring had never been forgiving, even when it was whole. It was a maze of dead corridors, torn decking, and cargo pods still drifting loose from whatever war had gutted it, and radio didn't carry 10 meters through half its collapsed sections. 6 years of walking it with a working Wayfinder had taught me exactly how easy it was to lose your bearings in there, how the dark started to feel the same in every direction, how a man's own breathing got loud enough to drown out thought. Going in without the crystal wasn't brave. It was closer to walking into black water and hoping the current was kind. I suited up anyway. What else was there? Corson was already at the dock rail, with half the reclamation crew and a growing crowd of dock workers drawn by the noise, and I heard him say, loud enough to carry, that this was exactly the kind of reckless sentiment his division existed to prevent. I was 3 steps from the airlock when something small and amber-plated planted itself in front of me. Ilix's antennae were up, trembling, in a way I'd never seen on her. "The stone," she said. Her translator clipped her words flat and mechanical, but I heard the crack underneath them. "I broke the stone. That corridor takes the 11th branch, or none. You will not find it without me." "Then come," I said, and didn't wait to see if she would. She came. What the Kirin call the scent thread is a caste privilege, I learned later, standing in that black corridor with debris groaning overhead. Not every hive child is born with it, and those who are do not lend it, not to strangers, not to lesser castes, and certainly not to the small, unranked strays she'd spent 6 weeks refusing to sit near. It reads trails invisible to instruments, body heat gone cold, breath gone stale, the faint chemical panic of 2 frightened young things folded into a service duct 4 decks down. Ilix read all of it through the mesh of her antennae and called the turns to me over open comm, clipped and precise, while half the dock listened on the same channel Corson had opened to broadcast my failure. "Left. Down. The hull's coming apart on your right, don't touch it. Left again. They're close. They're close. They're here." Ash and Moth were wedged behind a collapsed support strut, Moth's foreleg pinned, Ash standing over her, and snarling at the dark, like that would hold the ceiling up. I cut the strut, hauled them both against me, and Ilix walked ahead of us the entire way back, a small amber shape leading 4 bodies larger than herself through a dying wreck, never once wrong. We came out through the airlock 40 seconds before that section vented to vacuum. The dock had gone silent in the way a crowd goes silent when it's just watched something it didn't expect to survive, and Corson stood at the rail with his data slate still open to the condemnation order, and nothing to say. A dock worker started clapping, then most of them were. Corson closed the slate without a word and left before anyone could ask him to speak. He didn't come back. The order never got filed. I heard later, secondhand from a dockhand, who liked to gossip over the comms, that Corson had told his own division the sanctuary wasn't worth the paperwork anymore. I doubt paperwork was ever really what stopped him. A man can file a form against vermin. It's a great deal harder to file one against something the whole dock just watched save a stranger's life for nothing but the asking. That night, the litter piled into their usual heap at the foot of my bunk. Ash, cinder curled into Moth's flank, Moth already snoring, and for the first time, Ilix didn't retreat to her separate corner. She folded her wing cases down, low and careful, and settled in against Moth's side like she'd always belonged there, which, I understood now, she had. "Easy," I told her, the way I told all of them, and put my hand where it always went, resting light across whichever back was nearest. She didn't pull away. One of the dockhands started calling us claimed, not contained, not long after, half as a joke about Corson's paperwork, half as the truest thing anyone ever painted on my hull. I never bothered correcting them. Ilix still won't eat first. Some habits outlast the caste that taught them, but she sleeps in the pile now, every night, and she's the first one up if any of the others so much as whimper in the dark, because she knows better than any of us what it costs to go looking for someone alone.